Republicans start the impeachment inquiry. Biden botches his response to the 9/11 anniversary. And a Virginia Democrat is busted doing some shady stuff. This is the Bicycle Podcast. Okay, so this has been a long time coming. Joe Biden has been corrupt for so long. He's been running money for so long, doing all types of crap all around the world. And finally, the Republicans have got off their butts and started the process of impeachment. Kevin McCarthy, finally, because this man was gutless. This man knew Biden needed to be impeached. He knew they needed to gather all this evidence, but he was so slow to move because he's like these typical old school weak Republicans who love being the minority party, who love turning the other cheek, letting the Democrats left them around and just being happy to be there. But finally, and it took a lot of pressure, but finally McCarthy has launched the inquiry. Let's take a look.
These are allegations of abuse of power, obstruction, and corruption, and they warrant further investigation by the House of Representatives. That's why today I am directing our House committee to open a formal impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden.
And like I said, this is a long time in the running because Joe Biden has been running money in Kazakhstan. He's been with oligarchs in Russia. Even when this Ukraine thing started, they issued sanctions against these Russian oligarchs. But the ones he was in business with, to this day, these oligarchs are still not sanctioned. They still have freedom of movement, financial transactions, and all that with the U.S. because they're friends with the President of the United States. Joe Biden has used his crackhead son as a tool to run money. And we have all types of evidence of this. But right now, the media is in full defense mode, full swing defense mode, even though they claim to be impartial. And the main thing that they're trying to say is, there's no evidence. There's no evidence. So first, let's take a look at this dumbass on TikTok who's been a completely blind sheep, ignoring the evidence right in his face.
We're launching a formal impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden. Yes, what are you impeaching him for? Criming, the Joe Biden crime family. What kind of evidence do you have to prove these crimes? You've seen Hunter Biden's laptop, right? And there's like bribes and you have seen Hunter's laptop, right? So you don't have any evidence for these crimes? Oh, evidence. We don't have any evidence, okay? It's like a gut. It's like a gut feel. We have whistleblowers. Yeah, one of those whistleblowers turned out to be a spy, and the other one just disappeared, so I'm not exactly... Yeah, but come on, you guys impeached Trump twice! Throw us a bone over here, come on!
And you want evidence? Watch this Republican here go full swing against the media.
Yes, ma'am. Can I just ask, what actual evidence do you have as opposed to allegations to show to the American public that would merit an actual impeachment inquiry of Joe Biden and prove that today isn't just about some of you...
Oh, I don't know.
Speaker McCarthy for the sake of enacting political revenge.
This isn't about political revenge. We have the bank accounts. We can see, ma'am, you can see that the homes that the Bidens own can't be afforded on a congressional or Senate salary. You also understand that it's not normal for family members to receive millions of dollars from overseas interests. Those things aren't normal. That's not normal to have 20 shell companies. These things are not normal, and it alludes to not only just widespread corruption, but money laundering, if not influence peddling itself. And we also have the president, the vice president at the time, on record saying that the prosecutor was fired. Well, son of a bitch, the prosecutor was fired, right? Because the prosecutor was going after the company that his son was working on. That's what we have. If you can't see that, if you are that blunt, look, I'll turn it over to the attorneys.
So despite all of this, the Democrats are going to go back to their old playbook, which is deny, deny, deny. We have all the evidence. We've seen a laptop from hell. We know about these WhatsApp messages. We know about the financial transactions. We know about millions of dollars miraculously appearing, mansions and sports cars from miraculously appearing well beyond the salaries of a senator or of a crackhead or a jobless crackhead. We know this money isn't coming from nowhere. We know that Hunter Biden, who is not an artist, just decided to scribble some crap on a canvas, and all of a sudden oligarchs came and said, you know what, I'll give you $100,000 for this piece of crap that you scribbled. I'll give you $250,000 for that crap because it's art. They were washing money right in our faces and daring us to do something about it. And here we go. But the media is trying to say, oh no, this is because the Republicans are corrupt. This is because McCarthy is under pressure. Let's take a look at a couple of these New York Times headlines. So they're basically here trying to say, well, the impeachment has started, but it's not because Biden did anything wrong. It's because McCarthy is afraid of losing speakership. It's because he thinks the Republicans are going to vote him out. He's afraid of Republicans. So ignore anything that Biden did. Just remember, this entire impeachment against Biden means that the Republicans are corrupt. There are other news headlines saying the same thing. And let's look at this clip here from CNN running full-blown defense for Biden.
This is something that Donald Trump has been talking about since July.
So he's getting millions of dollars illegally from China. And then you say, hey, they impeached me over a phone call that was perfect. Why aren't they impeaching Biden for receiving tens of millions of dollars? Why isn't he under impeachment?
Obviously, no evidence about the millions of dollars from China, but is it clear that Trump is a major driving force in this to you?
He is certainly somebody who supports it, is behind it, has been talking about it, as you see in those clips, has been talking about it behind the scenes. How aggressively he is pushing for it with McCarthy directly, I think, is an open question. But there's no doubt that Trump, and this is his style, he sort of drops something into the conversation and Republicans take it up, and it's often offered as some kind of a suggestion. It's not a surprise that it went this route. I do think it's true, though, that McCarthy's about face was striking in terms of requiring a vote to move ahead.
Why do you think so?
Because I think that it speaks to the fact that his members are getting very restless, and he sees a real concern for himself from his right flank, and he is very good at reading the room in that way, and he sees where danger is coming from, and he acted. Now, I don't think that anyone else has enough votes to win the speakership right now against him, but I do think it speaks to what everybody thought was going to happen when he became speaker, which is that he is going to be sort of beholden to a certain group of right-wing Congress members.
Yeah, and for some of them.
So I guess this whole thing is just about Kevin McCarthy trying to maintain his position of power. Power that he doesn't even use well, unlike Nancy Pelosi, who was pushing all types of left-wing radical policies when she was a speaker. So these people are in denial. And one of the things that they use for fuel for their argument is Matt Gaetz, because Matt Gaetz is far more to the right than McCarthy is. And Matt Gaetz was speaking up for the millions, tens of millions of Americans who are pissed off with Joe Biden and who are pissed off with McCarthy sitting on his ass. So let's take a look at what Matt Gaetz said to Kevin McCarthy.
On this very floor in January, the whole world witnessed a historic contest for House Speaker. I rise today to serve notice. Mr. Speaker, you are out of compliance with the agreement that allowed you to assume this role. The path forward for the House of Representatives is to either bring you into immediate total compliance or remove you pursuant to a motion to vacate the chair. We have had no vote on term limits or on balanced budgets as the agreement demanded and required. There's been no full release of the January 6 tapes as you promised. There has been insufficient accountability for the Biden crime family. And instead of cutting spending to raise the debt limit, you relied on budgetary gimmicks and rescissions so that you ultimately ended up serving as the valet to underwrite Biden's debt and advance his spending agenda. Mr. Speaker, you boasted in January that we would use the power of the subpoena and the power of the purse. But here we are, 8 months later, and we haven't even sent the first subpoena to Hunter Biden. That's how you know that the rushed and somewhat rattled performance you just saw from the Speaker isn't real. At this point, during Democrat control over the House of Representatives, they had already brought in Don Jr. 3 times. And we haven't even sent the first subpoena to Hunter Biden. Power of the subpoena and power of the purse. Only thing the 118th Congress is known for at this point is electing Kevin McCarthy Speaker and underwriting Biden's debt. And unfortunately, there's only one of those things we can remediate at this time.
So here's the thing about Joe Biden being impeached. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Trump was impeached twice on bogus charges because Trump knew years ago about Biden being corrupt, about what he did in Ukraine, used taxpayer money to blackmail the Ukrainian government in order to help his son in shady business dealings, in order to run money, in order to money launder right in taxpayer faces. He even gave an interview, talked about it, joked about it, and the sheep in his audience laughed with him. We knew about this years ago, but when Trump asked about it, before Joe Biden was even on the scene, we thought he was about to retire because he was already old and senile. He was a retired vice president. We didn't think he was about to run for president, but they said, look, Joe Biden is your political rival and you called Ukraine and asked about Joe Biden's corruption. That means you're running election interference. You need to be impeached. And they came up with all kinds of shady BS, shady whistleblower. The whole thing was a farce. It was a full-blown showcase of the American banana republic. Then they ran it again after he told protesters to peacefully go home. That January 6th BS, that nonsense that the Democrats have been living off of for over 2 years now. They impeached him over it. They said, you tried to overthrow the government, even though you told protesters to go home, even though the protesters were unarmed and non-violent, even though the only person who experienced violence was one of the protesters at the hands of police who shot and killed one of them. We got evidence of police escorting these people, walking them in, opening doors, unlocking doors for the protesters. But somehow that was Trump trying to overthrow the American government. What? And these radical Democrats impeached him for it. So now it's Joe Biden's turn to get impeached. Where's that energy? Where's all that crap talk? Remember Adam Schiff sitting there talking about for over a year that he had hard evidence of Trump's corruption? Turns out he was a pencil-neck liar. These people out here celebrating, they were dancing, they were crying, enjoying themselves when Trump was impeached. And a lot of these people were too damn ignorant to know that impeachment doesn't mean removal from office. And that's exactly how the Democrats played it. They said, look, we're about to get rid of Trump. We're going to impeach him. And we're going to get him out of here. And a lot of their sheep just fell in line. They said, okay, good. We're going to get him out of here. And they were actually shocked when the Senate acquitted him and he wasn't removed from office. But let's take a look at a couple of clips of these Democrats talking crap and celebrating.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi announcing the vote in the House, 232 under the Congress voting.
Yeah, and these Hollywood people, they're so brainwashed.
Right now? Not to go to trial, but yeah. When is the trial? Trump impeached.
Celebrate, because we're about to elect a guy who supports trans and children.
Trump must go! Trump must go! Impeach now! Impeach now! Impeach now! Impeach now!
What we are dealing with today is of the gravest and utmost seriousness. We should stop looking for a secret smoking gun because Donald Trump is the smoking gun.
How can we claim to stand for fair elections around the world if our own leader does not show respect for our election here at home?
Committing treason, and this is absolutely grounds for impeachment.
We can conduct
So they
our
want us to
role
forget about all this now.
as a co-equal branch of government, as a checks
Forget
and
this ever
balance, and
happened.
conduct oversight, and we can have this full impeachment inquiry.
Examination of the Mueller report for me as soon as it came out for me to understand the true meaning of what it said. And what Mueller told us is, I've done the best that I could. Now, Congress, you need to do your job. And that's when I said we must begin an impeachment inquiry.
He must be impeached because he obstructed justice. So for meeting with Comey and saying, take it easy with my fellow crooks, impeach him now.
This is dangerous. He is a dangerous person to our country. And it's about time that my colleagues realize it, and they are. And for me and for all of us, whatever gets us to 218, we got to do it and send it to the United States Senate. Allow the ball to be in their court. Allow them to defend this criminal behavior.
And now that the tables have turned, they're coping. And it's funny as hell to watch. Let's take a look.
Is there anything more pathetic than this Kevin McCarthy, who is beholden to the dumbest wing in his party?
I think the impeachment inquiry is absurd. The American people want us to do something that will make their lives better, not go off on these chases and witch hunts.
Well, would you look at that, folks? Unsurprisingly, Donald Trump has been secretly helping to orchestrate the Republicans' sham impeachment against Biden behind the scenes. Yeah, that's right. Donald Trump behind the scenes has been secretly pulling the strings to make the Republicans impeach Biden so he can feel better about himself. The former president has been speaking weekly with the House GOP conference chair, Elise Stefanik, who was the first member of Republican leadership to come out in support of impeachment. Trump and Stefanik also spoke today after House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced Republicans would be pursuing the impeachment inquiry. And on top of this, on Sunday night, Donald Trump had dinner at his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And at the gathering, the topic of impeachment was discussed. And of course, this continues to show how much of a cult the Republican Party is. The fact that he's able to convince Republicans.
The cope is hard, man. Yeah, it's pathetic, man. These Democrats are trying their best to defend this senile old man because they have no one to replace him. This party is in shambles. And speaking of pathetic Democrats, we're going to get into Biden's 9/11 debacle. But first, an ad from our sponsor, me. Check out the Vice Signal merch store, tvsmerch.com. As we discuss today's topics, remember that your values and ideas can be expressed by the things that you wear. Check out our thoughtfully curated merchandise celebrating traditional ideas and government restraint. Explore our unique collection starting with the Supreme Style tinfoil hat, a statement piece that embodies our commitment to critical thinking and pushing back against the norm. Make a statement with the Free Trump shirt, boldly displaying the captivating mugshot of the former president, which instantly became the most famous picture in the world. At the Bicycle merch store, we're more than just products. We're a community dedicated to celebrating and defending traditional values. Sign up for promotions and receive 10% off your very first order. Don't miss out on these exceptional items. Embrace tradition, champion freedom, and shop now at tvsmerch.com. Okay, so we just observed the 22nd anniversary of 9/11, the most devastating attack, the most devastating event on American soil in our generation. This event, even though it was a couple of decades ago, is still extremely sensitive to Americans because 3,000 people died. People's families, moms, grandmas, children, brothers, aunties died in an act of terror. So the job of the president with these type of things is to provide encouragement and comfort and bring unity and solidarity to the country. But Joe Biden failed at it. Joe Biden was in Alaska, and people are asking, what the hell was he doing in Alaska on September 11th? Well, he had just come back from a trip to East Asia. He was over there in Vietnam recently, a couple of days ago. He was over there half dead, mumbling, falling over his own speech, not knowing what the hell he was even talking about. So Air Force One oftentimes, well, pretty much always, when the president travels to East Asia, they stop in Anchorage, Alaska for reprieve, for refueling, stuff like that. So the president didn't see it as a high priority to get to D.C., to get to New York, to get to Pennsylvania. He said, you know what? We're in Anchorage. We're over here. I just give a quick speech over here. I just talk about, some 9/11 stuff from over here. So this man gave his speech, a rush speech, and he even made a joke during his speech. Some dumbass joke about high school sports or something. Let's take a look.
Now, today, during Biden's half-hearted attempt to commemorate 9/11 during the pit stop in Alaska after his disastrous presser in Vietnam, the president rushed through a short, tone-deaf speech playing down the threat of al-Qaeda while emphasizing the rise of political extremism. Really? Take a look.
Governor Dunleavy, it's good to see you. Governor and I have something in common. We're both from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I wish I had him playing in my high school ball club that I was playing. But I could have been an All-American having you in front of me. Terrorism, including political and ideological violence, is the opposite of all we stand for as a nation. that settles our difference peacefully under the rule of law. Today, we can look across the country and around the world and see anger and fear in places many of you have been stationed before. A rising tide of hatred and extremism and political violence. It's more important than ever that we come together around the principle of American democracy, regardless of our political backgrounds. We must not succumb to the poisonous politics of difference and division. We must never allow ourselves to be pulled apart by petty manufactured grievances.
People are outraged right now because this is an extremely sensitive event, like I said, and this man is tone deaf. He doesn't understand the seriousness of it. So it could be a couple of things. He could just be senile. His staff is completely incompetent. They're all tone deaf. They're all dumb and didn't know that he shouldn't have been in Anchorage, Alaska. He should have been at one of the sites. He should have been with the families who suffered that day. Or it could be maybe he knows and he just doesn't give a damn. Because just a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, Hawaii was on fire. And while ashes of human remains was on the ground, over 100 people died. Thousands of houses burned to the ground. He was on the beach in Delaware, sunbathing. After that, he went to a billionaire's house in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, just to chill and relax. This man showed these people in Hawaii and in America that he didn't give a damn about them. Just like East Palestine, Ohio, he gave some BS excuse after they dealt with that train derailment that completely destroyed their entire town. And he said, you know what, I'm not going over there. He kept making these promises, but every time somebody asked him, when are you going to East Palestine, Ohio? They'd be like, he'd say, I'm busy. I got to go to this place, that place. I need to go everywhere on earth before I can go to East Palestine. So the thing about it is, he can show people that he doesn't give a damn, and they'll still love him. They will still protect him because these people vote blue no matter who. So they're going to come out and cape for this man and defend this man. So maybe he just don't give a damn about people who suffered during 9/11. And he said, God damn it, I guess I'll give a little speech, man. Like, write something down real quick, jot something on some paper, I'll read it, I guess. That could be the case, or it could be the case that his staff is sabotaging him because even though these people are voting blue no matter who, there are some factions in the left who want Joe Biden to get out of there. CNN even ran a segment showing how much of a liar Joe Biden is.
He has done, I don't know if it's similar things, but he's sort of told some stories that don't line up quite like this before.
Yeah, this president has a pattern at this point of either inventing or embellishing stories about his own past, his biography. He did it 3 times in one speech last month alone. He claimed he had witnessed a bridge collapse in Pittsburgh when he actually showed up about 6 hours later. He claimed that his grandfather had died just days before he was born himself at the same hospital. In fact, his grandpa died more than a year before in a different state, not the same hospital. And he also repeated a favorite false story that I and others have debunked over and over again about a supposed conversation with an Amtrak train conductor he was friends with, who was actually deceased at the time the conversation would have had to take place. And that's not all. There are some more serious ones in my view. Previously in his presidency, he claimed at one point he'd been arrested during a civil rights protest when, in other versions of the story, he just said an officer had taken him home from a protest. He said he had visited the Pittsburgh synagogue where worshipers were killed in a 2018 mass shooting. In fact, he had actually spoken to the rabbi, but never went. And he's made a whole bunch of others too. He said at one point, Republicans like to bring this up, he said that he used to drive a tractor trailer, he used to drive an 18-wheeler. Never happened. The White House later clarified he used to drive a school bus at one point as a job briefly. School bus, of course, not an 18-wheeler. So whatever his intentions, whether it's foggy memory about stuff that's going on decades ago or deliberate embellishment, this is an unfortunate pattern that keeps coming up again and again with Joe Biden.
They've been trying to tout up people like Kamala Harris and the media, Gavin Newsom. So maybe his staff sabotaged him because they have plans to oust him, but who knows? And honestly, when you're the president, you should be competent enough to know what's going on and shouldn't have to rely on your staff for big events like this. And also during this event, some of the things that he did was he failed to address news safety, all the strides we made, how we're not going to be devastated by such an event again. Failed to discuss that in detail. He failed to address the border, the southern border, U.S.-Mexico border. He failed to address how terrorists, people from the Middle East and all parts of the world are coming in. You got MS-13, you got Mexican cartels, you got African warlords. They're all just pouring into the United States. We have millions and millions of undocumented immigrants. Who knows who these people are? So maybe he just didn't want to address it because he supports open borders and terrorists could be coming in every day. But bottom line is, this whole event, this whole debacle was an absolute failure. All the man had to do was give some encouragement and comfort to the families. Show up. And even if you're an old senile man, just act like you give a damn. Okay, so staying on the topic of Democrats and some of the trashy things that they do, let's move over to Virginia. We have a lady out here, Susanna Gibson, in the Virginia House of Delegates, and she's running to be a congresswoman in the House of Representatives. So one of her biggest secrets just got exposed. Let's take a look.
Controversy is brewing around a Virginia House of Delegates candidate. Pornographic videos of Democrat Susanna Gibson have surfaced. She is running for Virginia's 57th district. Capitol Bureau reporter Tyler Englander has more on the story drawing national attention.
According to the Washington Post, Democratic delegate candidate Susanna Gibson performed sex acts with her husband in online videos and asked viewers for tips to perform certain acts. The Washington Post says a Republican operative alerted them to videos in which Gibson and her husband streamed sex acts on a website called Chatterbait. More than a dozen videos were archived on other websites. In a statement, Gibson responded by saying in part, "This is an illegal invasion of my privacy designed to humiliate me and my family. It won't intimidate me and it won't silence me. My political opponents and their Republican allies have proven they're willing to commit a sex crime to attack me and my family because there's no line they won't cross to silence women when they speak up." Political analyst Rich Marr reacted to the controversy.
Where we normally think of like, well, sex tape, that's bad. Something bad has happened. But I actually do think that a lot of Democrats particularly are thinking more about this was consensual sex. This was with her husband.
Gibson is in a tight battle with Republican David Owen to represent District 57 in the Virginia House of Delegates. The district narrowly voted for Governor Glenn Youngkin in 2021, but favored Democrats in congressional races in 2022. Marr says due to extreme political polarization, Gibson's latest controversy is unlikely to have a big impact on the race.
If this is something that would offend you as a voter, you probably weren't going to vote for her anyway. And if this is something that doesn't bother you quite so much, you were probably going to vote for her in the first place. So I don't think it changes the dynamic of voting for most of the people in the district.
Governor Glenn Youngkin reacted to the news, saying he's focused on electing Republican candidates.
I think that's a topic that she and the Democratic Party are going to have to deal with.
Gibson's opponent David Owen said in a statement, "I'm sure this is a difficult time for Susanna and her family, and I'm remaining focused on my campaign." In Richmond, I'm Tyler England.
She's exposed as a cam girl. She's been prostituting herself on the internet, and now she wants to play the victim. She's been voluntarily exposing herself online, and now other people have found out about it. Now they're committing sex crimes because a Republican found out and he told other people. She's saying that this guy is a criminal, calling this man a sex offender, but you voluntarily put yourself there. So don't cry victim. If we're going to accept this and we're going to say that the person who told other people about what a lot of people already knew about you, that you were a internet prostitute, if we're going to say that this person is a sex offender, what does it make the people who exposed Donald Trump's conversation with Billy Bush or whatever that guy's name was, when he was talking about having consensual sex with women? That whole grab them by the pizza leaf video from back in 2016. Are they sex criminals for showing it? It blew up all over the news. So I guess the news media, I guess they're a bunch of sex criminals. I guess they're sex offenders because they showed Donald Trump talking about voluntary sex. You can't have a double standard. If we're going to accept in your case, you got to accept it in other cases. And now some of these Democrats, they're downplaying it. They're just saying, oh, it's sex. We don't care about fornication. We have wild sex acts. Look at us in June when we're celebrating gay sex. So who gives a damn if she prostitutes herself on the internet? And one of the biggest problems with this whole thing is her opposition. Her opponent is saying, I'm just running for Congress. That's her family problem. I have nothing to say. But if it was the other way around, the media would destroy this man. They would have no mercy. But these Republican squishes, Glenn Youngkin, another squish, another Republican over there, he's the governor of Virginia. He's shown that he's a squish because when the Democrats were protesting outside a Supreme Court justice's house over abortion, he sat there and failed to act. He didn't do what people put him in power to do. And here he's again. Oh, I have nothing to say about that. Let's just ignore it. Let that happen to you, Glenn Youngkin. That stuff will be blowing up all day, every day until you're thrown out of office and forgotten about. These squishes are pretty pathetic, man. So we're going to see what happens with this lady. Is she going to be able to garner the votes out there? She probably will, because when you look at track records, look at what happened in Arizona back in 2020 with Carrie Lake and whatever that lady's name is, the Arizona governor. She wouldn't debate. She wasn't campaigning. She was afraid. And people didn't even know who she was. And they went into the booth and guess what? Vote blue no matter who. So a lot of people up there in Virginia, particularly Northern Virginia, the Richmond area, and then the DC area, they don't give a damn what she did. They don't care who she is. They're going to go in there. They're going to see a D by name. They're going to vote for her. So in the larger scheme of things, maybe this doesn't even matter. Okay, so taking the ship away from politics, there's this video going viral on Twitter. There was a group of people celebrating a wedding in this Rhode Island restaurant, and things ended up getting out of hand as they got drunk. They were acting stupid. They ended up getting kicked out. Cops were called. So let's see what ensued after that.
Hey, name your badge number. Name your badge number.
Hey, that cop man already, man. It's probably late. He ready to go home. He's like, get the hell back. He pushing these people. Being real nice.
Hey, back up. Name your badge number.
Ooh.
Oh my God.
Ooh.
Yo, Coogs. Coogs, get over here, bro. Oh my God. Koobie, get back. Koobie.
Ooh, kicked him in the nuts. Oh, he said that's his wife. Cop just punched his wife. That's what it looks like. So, I don't know, man. These people, all the reports are saying these people are in the wrong, but if a man punches your wife, if a man violates your wife in any type of way, I don't care who you are, man. That reaction is going to come out of you. You don't punch my wife. You don't violate my wife. It reminds me of that Joe Biden video, that pathetic man as Joe Biden was sitting there groping his wife. He just wanted to continue to go along to get along. He wanted to act like it didn't happen, while an old senile pervert was groping your wife.
Oh my God. Oh my God, you just fucked.
Yeah, she's clocked. So apparently what happened here off camera, they say, is one of the guys went for a cop's gun. The cop tried to punch the man, missed, hit the lady, knocked her the hell out.
Fucking knocked her out, bro. You just fucking knocked her out, bro. You just knocked her out.
You know what? These guys just bum rush a cop, threw him on the ground, bust his nose, punched him. It's a full-blown brawl. Where are the guns? Because I've seen people get shot for way less than this.
Dude, her head just hit the pavement.
Sleep.
Her head just hit the pavement, bro.
Man, if the cops are in the wrong here, that lawsuit's going to be enormous. All right, guys, we're going to react to one more video. Leave things on a lighter note. Let's take a look at this TikTok video that went viral on TikTok. Everything's going viral. But let's take a look.
Let me down. Let it drop. There you go. I'm holding. 3, 2, 1. Oh man. You gotta remember today, brother. No más. I got you, brother. I got you, brother.
He said, "Oh no."
I got you, dude.
He's begging.
There's still a little more, dude. Drop the hands. You can do this. You can do this, brother.
No, don't.
Okay?
He said, "No."
Dígame.
No.
No se puede.
¿Done?
Sí se puede.
No, ya está.
Oh my God. I got tears over here. Let's look at some of these comments over here. This makes me nervous. My chiropractor appointment is tomorrow. Bro, he died. Dude was in agony, man. That man's noises were not of relief, but of agony. The scariest part is that a lot of times they give you a warning not to move much because it could paralyze you. It sounds like he got shot. Somebody said it feels so good afterwards. I don't know. Not this particular case. This guy's gonna be messed up pretty bad. Sounded like thunder just struck him. I thought that was a pretty hilarious video that I wanted to share. So if you enjoyed today's episode, leave a like, share it, and I'll see you guys next time.